We only want pleasure. That's it. Don't kid yourself about anything else. That is what is driving all your neighbors, your parents, your boss, your employees, your kids, everybody, the guy at the gas station. Everybody just wants pleasure. Everyone's running a piece of software. What's the least I can do to get the most pleasure?
Let me
For the
quote for a
person,
second my beloved friend Tony Kosanek. It's the
yeah.
E equals MC square of the squared of the ego. How can I get the most amount of pleasure with the least amount of effort? I
No, and
like that.
this is an excellent line of software, by the way.
Right.
It is an excellent line of software. It's like E equals MC squared. It's like all of these laws, all of these operations to make a phone, to send a rocket to space is all in those four, however many symbols. E, M, C. Well, C is just squared, so it's really three things.
Yeah.
C times C. So in
Yeah,
those
it's
three elements there,
energy, mass, and speed of light, isn't it?
speed of light. Yeah. So in those three things there is like this. With those three little things, you could build all this. So in a sense, this is a very, very important line of code. How do I get the most pleasure for the least effort? It's really good. It's really good that but in order for us to consciously come to something good, we're going through this whole interim ripening process. So if there's enough suffering until this will to receive, this creation says to itself, I can have more pleasure if I modify how I live.
So you're saying, okay, we're gonna have to destroy the planet,
No, no,
destroy
no. I
each
hope we
other.
don't.
Okay, but let's say in that scenario that we do. Okay, in that scenario that this is what we do. So then what? You're saying that simply by going through so much suffering, destruction, and horrible pain and sorrow, that will then convince us to
Also,
start
listen. If
being loving towards each other.
unfortunately, just suffering is not enough.
There we
Also,
go.
so along with the suffering, um, no, the suffering is not enough because suffering won't turn you into a human. Suffering will make you keep running away from pain, but at a certain point, we have to do human things to become human. And just running away from a stick is still an animal thing.
Okay, so let's now play with this equation: suffering and education. So the more education, the more learning we go through, the more
Good education,
conscious, yeah, the more
spiritual
conscious
education.
spiritual education we go through, the less suffering we need because we're in a natural program. That's the beauty of it. And that is that tiny area where nature left us latitude, which we can call free choice. It's the only place where we can actually do something. Evolution is pushing us towards a higher state of connection. Until we get there, we're stuck in our egos that are growing and growing and growing, ruining our life, ruining our planet, ruining our world, slapping our presidents because we don't have a choice. We don't trust them. They don't trust us. We need cameras that analyze our citizens' emotions so we can control them in a better way. We need to, I read today that the richest people in the U.S., including people like Bezos and Musk and so on. So it turns out they're not paying like any taxes as well. Like for like so even your heroes, even if you're on the Musk team, for innovation and so on. So so this ego is everywhere, and it doesn't let us breathe. We're strangling each other. It's literally like we're holding like we're holding our necks in each other's hands, and we're just like strangling. And the only way for us to realize that we can trust each other and we can live for each other is if we begin to somehow enjoy it. That's the
Enjoy
whole
what?
thing. Enjoy caring for each other. That's the whole problem. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. That's why we need education, only to convince ourselves that we can actually get infinite pleasure from living in concern for each other, living in caring for each other, living in love for each other. And guess what? When we start to do that, even just psychologically, educationally, consciously, we then will begin to also be in equivalence, in resonance with that loving force of
Mm.
nature that runs between all created beings, still vegetative, animate, all levels of nature. We will start living in the same program, but consciously, as opposed to instinctively like the rest of nature. And here's the quote I wanted. Thank you, Chris. At first glance, changing our desire seems imaginary, as something that is above human nature. He knows, Balasulam, he knows that it sounds like a utopia, weird. How can we ever change our nature wanting to give to each other? But when we delve into it, we will find that the whole contradiction between receiving for oneself and bestowing upon others is nothing but psychological.